look at what he goes on to say. He says this. He says, and Jesus came to redeem us so that we might receive adoption to sonship. And then look at what he talks about, how we're connected to God. This is amazing. He says that so he has put his son's spirit into our hearts. The spirit of Jesus in our hearts. The spirit that calls out, Abba, Father. And so did you know that we're connected to God? Did you know in this thing called the family of God, we're connected by lineage, but it's not by blood. God doesn't have blood. He says, you know how you're connected? You're connected in your heart because the Spirit of God has come to live in you, to reside in you, and the Holy Spirit that's dwelling in you. He connects you to God the Father and to every other brother, sister that is in the family. He says, I'm going to tell you something. This is a relational deal. It's not transactional. It's not judicial. It's not just about being forgiven. It's not about the slave master deal. It's not about the courtroom scene. It's about something much bigger than that. In fact, he says, let me tell you how intimate it is. He says the Spirit that inside of you calls out, Abba, Father. Now, this little word Abba is amazing. It's a word that is equated to intense intimacy. Okay? In the original language that was spoken, it was called Aramaic. That's like the language we would talk to each other. They would have all these conversations about dad and daddy. But then when they went to write down the New Testament in Greek, Greek didn't have a word that equated to the intense intimacy and personalness of God. And so they wrote it down as Abba, the original word in the Aramaic, and then Father. So they duplicated really the word, but they did it because they had a word for father, distanced father relationship, but they didn't have a word for Abba, for dad, for daddy. And for some of us this morning, it's uncomfortable, seems irreligious, seems kind of weird. But you know what? The biggest thing about what Christmas is about, God sending his son, the message you need to get in your heart and in your soul this morning, not academically, but in here, is that God has adopted you and he wants you to call him Dad.